that is important to us, it's important that we honor God in that relationship. So I do my best to please God by honoring the gift that he's given me in my husband. And I just feel that it's a privilege that God has chosen me and allowed me to be part of this man's life. And I take that very seriously.
So
hope that answers your question.
It's a giving yourself to your husband. It's reserving yourself for him. It's not a contract that says, okay, if you do this, then I'll do that. It's saying, I belong to you. Is that what I hear you saying?
Right. I belong to him, and I belong to him on so many levels. And we won't talk about all those levels, but those that are good for radio or podcasting would be that I give him my best. I try to give him the best me that I can possibly be.
Excuse me. And so in giving your best, that sounds like it also means that you have to make some sacrifices. Is that true? Of course.
And anytime you make a sacrifice, you have to look at the end result. What would be benefited, not just by you, because, of course I'm benefited, and it's reciprocal. He gives me his best, and it just amazes me that God has allowed this man to be a part of my life because, like I said earlier, he's the best doggone thing that I could ever have received. Outside of Jesus Christ, my husband is, it's hard to put into words because this is something that I've lived, not something that I've just talked about or something that I share with other people. It's what I've lived. And I don't know, for those that are living in a relationship, living with a spouse, and you haven't received that gift of just being married to someone. Listen, this guy is a human being, so he has his ways, but so do I. And we are in partnership together to do whatever we can to make sure that we live up to what God calls this relationship marriage. And so I believe that I want God to be pleased with the way I've taken care of his son. So I am a steward of James Flowers. And as a steward, I give him my very best. And it is a sacrifice, but it's so worth it.
I'm sure we have women who are listening who are saying, yeah, well, I give my best and I get nothing in return. Nothing. He doesn't bring me flowers. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to spend time. He just does this and that, and we don't do anything together. And you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of giving my best and getting nothing in return. What words of courage and encouragement, what practical steps would you share with women today who are feeling like, I'm married, but perhaps I'd be better off single?
Well, you have to look at the marriage relationship for what it is, and Ephesians talks about it in a more practical manner. But just for the sake of time, I know that when I consider that my husband is a gift to me, I treasure a gift, and I believe all of us treasure a gift, and I believe it's important to just pray more than anything, not just pray for your husband, but pray for yourself. Pray that God would cause you to be the woman that you want to be for that man. Sometimes women complain a lot, and when you complain, you may not get the results you want. But I would say to continue to pray and to be that wife that God wants you to be, and know that God will reward your relationship, and He will reward you for being steadfast. And not to compare yourself with anybody else, because your husband is uniquely who he is as well as you are. And all of us could say that we need improvement in different areas, but, we are who we are. And so just like my husband puts up with my ways, I put up with his ways. Like I said, he's not perfect, neither am I. But we do our best to love one another and to respect one another and to provide what we can for this journey called marriage.
And so when I hear you talking, I hear you saying you see your husband as a gift. Yes. But for those women who are struggling, and the struggle is real for them right now, and they can't see their husbands as a gift, they see them as a pain in the neck, even though they love them, they've had it. I mean, they're really on the brink of quitting and giving up. And they've prayed, and nothing is seemingly changing. What should be a step for them to take to stay in to press their way in instead of quitting? What's a practical step that they could take with their husband or for their husband, for their marriage, as you said earlier, not for the moment?
One of the things that I've done over the years, RJ, is to look at the relationship, my own marriage in particular. And what I've always done is I say, okay, God, I'm not, because during those first years, of course, you can't get used to this person's habits and what have you. But over the years, you look for the good. You look for something that is good in that person. And obviously there's something good in that person, or you would not have married him, or you would not have married her, if I'm speaking to men or women. But there was something that you found attractive enough to want to be with this person for the rest of your life. Look for that. Go back in your memory bank and ask yourself, what attracted me to this person? Is he not still that person? And if he has changed, then ask yourself, can I change with him? Because all of us change, all of us grow. There are some stretches in the relationship, but at the same time, are we just looking and nitpicking for things that aren't right? Because that can you can really ride that pony for a long time if you want to. But look for the good, and then compliment the good, and then learn to date your husband again. If he doesn't want to date you, then you date him. Get all dolled up and do what you used to do before you actually had him come into your world and say, hey, I want you to be part of my world, and I want to be part of your world. I think sometimes women spend too much time on the negative and don't look at the positive. And there was something positive there, because you did decide that you wanted to be married to this person. That might not be the answer that some women want, but it's the best that I can give you at this moment, because I just feel that we give up too easily. And there is joy in waiting. I've had some experiences where I've had to wait on God, and it was so worth the wait. And I think in the world in which we live, we don't like to wait anymore. We just want something different, and we want it now.
Waiting is so important. And when I hear you talk about looking for the good, it reminds me of a counselor I once heard say, listen, for the next 30 days, write down 3 things positive about your spouse, and then tell them one, and then do it for 30 days. And watch and see what a difference it will make and the change that it will make, not only in your spouse, but in you. Because it is true, we get what we look for. We find it. So we want the negative, we will definitely find it. If we want the positive, we will also find that as well. One of the things I want to suggest, and I want to suggest to women to do, is to utilize the resources that are available. And I know, Pastor Kathy, you and your husband both are resources in the community. You have a foundation for marriage. You believe in marriage. You teach classes on communication. You do marital counseling. And these are resources that people can actually reach out and touch and find the solutions and the answers that they need that they can't find within themselves. Because the truth of the matter is we can only do what we know. And so the resources are available for us to learn more. We have to be willing to reach out. And so I say to those of you who are listening, if you're struggling in your marriage, marriage is honorable.
Yes, it is.
It is God's way of saying, look, this is how important you are to me. I'm going to show you through marriage. And so this is not the time. Now is not the time. It is never the time to quit, to throw in the towel. But yes, find those resources. Find people who can walk alongside of you, who can mentor you. And yes, look for the good, as Pastor Kathy said. It is certainly there. But whatever you do, don't quit. Don't quit.
Yes.
Divorce is a death. And I can tell you from experience, divorce is a death. It is not only a natural death, it's a physical death, it's a spiritual death, it's a death in your family, it's a death in your community. It's a death that you never get revived from. I don't care what goes on in your life thereafter. And so if you're married, stay married. Pastor Kathy, you were going to share something.
I was just going to say that's easier said than done. But you know what, RJ? In the world in which we live, there are so many resources available. But when it comes to our relationships, that's one area that we just kind of pull back from. We don't want anyone to share with us or teach us about relationships. We just kind of want to shoot from the hip and hope that it works, and that is not practical. If someone finds, a bad pair of shoes and someone compliments, and says, girl, those are some bad shoes. Where'd you get those shoes? You will tell them where you got the shoes. You will tell them how much you paid, and, they were on sale or whatever. And when it comes to relationships, I don't know why, but we kind of shut down and close up when it comes to relationships. And we really don't, we're not as open to hearing and listening and learning as we are in other areas of our lives. And when it comes to marriage, I think it's important to glean as much as you can, to be around other couples and find out what are people doing that gives them longevity in their marriages. And if you stay around people that are unhappy, you will be unhappy, or you'll be looking for something to pick at or to complain about. But find yourself a group or a mentoring, maybe an older woman that's been married for a number of years, or find a group of people that you can hear about marriage, you can learn about marriage, and you can be with other people who are like-minded.
It's such great words of wisdom. And when you started off, you said it's easier said than done. Most things worth having is easier said than done. It requires that you make an investment into it. Saying no to those potato chips is easier said than done. But when you want to get in that size 5 dress for that vacation or that trip that you're about to take or that class reunion, you're going to make it done whether it's easy or not. You're going to do it. So I think we need to invest the same in our relationships, whether they're with our spouse, with our kids, with our neighbors. It's an investment with a great return. So I'm not saying it's easy. It's work required, but it's worth it. Put the work in, because we put the work in for things that 2 years from now will not even be remembered. Put the work in for your relationship. Hey, listen, if you're just joining us, we want to stop. We want to pause for